Good evening, everybody at home. So we're just starting our study, and we're going to start by reading a page from the Christian Journal. So that's the Agenda Cristã. And we just do the reading of this page, and then we're going to do our initial prayer. So if you're at home also, let's pay attention to the reading and do the prayer all together. In your own favor. Learn to yield in the favor of many, so that some will intercede on your behalf in disagreeable situations. Help without demanding, so that others may help you without complaining. Do not imprison those about you to your way of thinking. Give your companion the opportunity to interpret life as freely as you do. Be careful of the way you express yourself. Gestures often speak louder than words. Refer to yourself as little as possible. Cooperate fraternally in the joys of your fellow beings. Avoid overwhelming verbosity. He who talks without pause tires the listener. Leave the authorship of good ideas to others, and do not worry if you are forgotten. Be convinced that any noble initiative does not really belong to you, since everything good proceeds originally from God. Think of your adversary as a bearer of equilibrium. If we have need of friends to stimulate us, we equally need someone to show us our errors. Be calm when arguing. Your opponent's rights are the same as yours. If you pay too much attention to the criticism of the one who is inferior, then you must endure the constraints of the plane to which you have descended without feeling hurt. Be useful everywhere, but do not attempt to please everyone. Do not undertake that which even Christ has still not attained. When faced with error, correct it first in yourself, and then in others, without violence and without hate. If treachery crosses your path, deny in the honor of indignation. Examine it with a silent smile. Study the process calmly, and shortly afterwards, transform it into material worthy of life. Help the envious in fraternal manner. Spite is an undistinguished homage to merit, and in paying this tribute, the common man torments himself and suffers. We can do our initial prayer. We close our eyes and ask God, our Father, Jesus our brother, spirituality here present, spirituality on the cross that is now present in this study. We ask your permission to start one more meeting of the Allan Kardec Spiritus Group of New Zealand. We ask that our mentors illuminate our speaker of tonight, that she may be blessed with illumination, with the power of remembrance of everything she studied, and that we all, incarnated or disincarnated, may listen, not just with our ears, but also with our hearts, that we may be open to receive the kind words that are about to shower us, that we may embrace it, and that we may be present here, not just with our bodies, but with our souls, giving our full attention to the topic here studied, and that we leave here today a little better than we arrived, that the spirits, incarnated or disincarnated, that come here tonight, seeking for help, for treatment, that we all may receive it, and leave here feeling a little lighter than when we came, that we may live and spread through your word, God, not only with our mouths, but also in actions, that we may live by the words that we here study. And we ask your forgiveness for not living through all the moments of our life, for failing to remember in moments of stress, in moments that we are not quite ourselves, that we leave the path. We ask for your forgiveness, that we may always have our hearts and souls open to listen to those who love us, to those incarnated that try to guide us through life, that we may have our hearts open to be connected, to be guided through the good path. That the good vibrations that we're going to generate here tonight reach those at home, and especially those that couldn't come, incarnated or disincarnated, that couldn't be here for a reason, that they may receive the blessings. We thank you all for your presence. So good. Good. So tonight we're going to talk about Always Choose Life, and I'll invite Alcione to talk.
Thank you.
I'll leave the remote here just in case. Okay. Good evening. Welcome everybody in person here. Welcome everybody from the Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and all the social media. How is everybody feeling tonight?
Very good.
It's the second day of summer in New Zealand. In New Zealand we start summer a little bit earlier, so 2nd of December, second day of summer. And today was a very beautiful day, right? Whoever was able to be out a little bit could be the beautiful blue sky and sun. And tonight we chose an interesting topic that usually is not much discussed in the Spiritism, but is very important as well, which is suicide prevention. And we put the title Always Choose Life because every time that we can contribute to suicide prevention, we'll be choosing life, we'll be defending life, we'll be helping to preserve life. So for this study, I used a lot this book called Living is the Best Choice by André Trigueiro. The book, there is a version in Portuguese as well, called Viver é a Melhor Opção. The English version, we have a few copies, so if anyone wants one later, just let us know. Alright? So, most good part of this lecture was taken from this book, which is a really well done research about science of suicide prevention, which is actually called suicidology. I never even knew this word, I didn't even know there was a science behind it. And also André Trigueiro bring us a spiritual view of the suicide prevention. So let's start by checking one of our main sources of information, which is Spirit's book. What Spirit's book says about suicide. Has a man the right to dispose of his, her life? No, that right belongs to God alone, he who voluntarily commits suicide contravenes the providential ordering which sent him into the earthly life. So it's really clear, it's really straightforward. According to Spiritism, suicide is not right. Suicide is a mistake. So just to start with, it's important to clarify that. We know that, most of us probably knew that already, but why then we should study suicide? We know it's a mistake, we know we should not do, but what is the importance about studying suicide, especially suicide prevention? One of the main reasons is because suicide is preventable in most cases, and now that is proved by science and by researchers as well. So if it's preventable, we as spiritists and we that want to defend life, we want to choose life, we should be aware of it and we should be contributing to it. Because also we believe that life is a gift. The reincarnation is a great opportunity for us to improve ourselves. And we know how much plan, how much preparation is done before each one of us reincarnates. The superior spirits, they really take their time to analyze what are the best trials for us, what are the best tests, what we should go through during life to improve ourselves. So it's a lot of work. And to waste this gift is really a great, enormous waste if that happens. So through life, towards life, we always should have this feeling of gratitude towards all this planning, all this preparation, and especially the opportunity to be here, because we know that opportunity is very important for us, for our own evolution. And the other reason would be because we understand also the consequences of suicide, and we're going to talk about that as well. We're going to explore a little bit that, and if we can help others not go through the consequences of suicide, we'll be doing our part as well. But before we go a little bit further, something very important to keep in mind is a distinction between the act of suicide, that is clear, we know is a mistake, and the person committing suicide. We should have no judgment to anybody that did this action. We should just have love and respect towards them. We are going to be talking about the act as a mistake, but not the person. Because for someone to make a decision of finishing their life, for sure would be lots of suffering and pain involved in that. And we only should have love towards them. And we need to remember that we all make mistakes, right? That's a mistake. Maybe we don't do this, but we do many other ones. So just to keep that in mind and avoid having this judgment in our heads. To illustrate this topic, would you like to bring a story that's from a book called Chicken Soup from the Soul? Some of you may know, it's a very beautiful book, has lots of different stories. And this story is called A Simple Gesture. So one day Mark, it's one of these boys here in this picture, was walking home from school. And he saw in front of him another boy. That boy had lots of books. He had 2 jackets, he had gloves, he had so many things. He was carrying lots of things. And he tripped and dropped everything on the floor. Straight away, Mark went there to help him and asked if he could help carry at least half of the thing because he had lots of stuff. And the other boy, his name was Bill, he agreed and said, okay, of course you can help me. And they start talking. And they find out they had lots in common. Both of them like playing baseball. They also like to study history, and they love playing video games. And so they arrive at Bill's place first, and Bill invited Mark to come over just to play some video game. And from them they became good friends, and they were friends for many years. After a few years, Bill called Mark and asked to catch up, to have a coffee, and said, I would like to talk to you. So Bill asked Mark, do you ever wonder why I was carrying so much stuff on that day we met? And Bill replied, well, I know it was lots of stuff, but I'm not so sure. I never thought much about it. So Bill replied, on that day, I was planning to kill myself. I emptied my locker at school because I didn't want to leave any mess behind to anybody, and I managed to get some sleeping pills from my mom, so I was going home and I was going to kill myself on that day. But by meeting you, and you were so nice with me, we had so much fun, and I just changed my mind because I saw that moments could be good as well. And by our friendship, I started not thinking anymore about killing myself. So on that day when we met, you actually saved my life. So this is a very Simple, the name of the story is A Simple Gesture. And Mark had no idea that he helped this boy not committing this act. So suicide prevention, and we're gonna talk more about this, in a way can be very simple. And sometimes we don't even notice that we're doing that. Of course, could be more straightforward. But I thought this story was very interesting, how simple can it be, and how beautiful can also be as well. And so it's important for us, so far we saw, it's important for us to understand more. And to understand more, it's good to have a clear picture of it. Close to 800,000 people die due to suicide every year, which is one person every 40 seconds. So it happens a lot. Even though we don't talk a lot, for most of us something uncomfortable to talk about. We don't like talking about it. We probably avoid the subject most of the time. But if we want to help with prevention, we need to learn. We need to talk about it. But it happens everywhere and happens all the time, unfortunately. And for every suicide, at least 20 other people are affected in a life-changing way. It's not only the person that finished with their life. It's the mother, the father, brother, sister, friends. And in average, that's according to research, about 20 people are affected by this act of one person. And some New Zealand statistics as well, just to give us an idea. In 1 year, around 150 people in Aotearoa, New Zealand, think about taking their own life. So they just think, they don't go further. 50,000 people make a plan to take their own life. Like we saw in the story, Bill had a plan, he had the pills and he was going to do it. 20,000 attempted suicides, and on average 521 died by suicide in New Zealand, in this country. So by that, we can see that prevention can help in any of these stages. Could be someone just thinking about suicides, and there is some prevention, some intervention, they give up. Could be they already have a plan, like in the little story we saw. And if someone attempts, maybe they don't succeed on that, we can also help. So there are lots of opportunities. That's why I wanted to show that. But what leads a person to commit suicide? Why? We all have our lives, right? We all have good things in our life. We have some things that are hard as well. But why someone start thinking about it and sometimes make the decision? So the explanation comes from the book that I showed you guys in the beginning, and it's based on the science of suicide prevention. Mainly, so what is the reason? Mainly the pain of living. They cannot stand the anguish of living with that pain. Deep down, people do not want to kill themselves. They want to avoid the pain, escape the pain. What moves them in this direction is not the death, but life itself not bearing to live with suffering and pain. So the main reason is the pain, is the suffering. So there is a problem with that, because in this planet of trial and expiation, can we live without pain? Can any one of us live without suffering? It's not possible, right? Because even from the gospel spirit, according to Spiritism, we learn that happiness is not from this world. Of course, there are moments of happiness, but we can't be happy all the time. We are all going to have our challenges. We are all going to have our difficulties. And in some moments, we'll have more suffering than other moments. So, in this planet, it's not possible to live without pain. And we know also that the importance of pain for us. With Spiritism, we know that pain works as a pedagogical tool, is an education tool for us. So if we check on Leon Denis, The Problem of Life and Destiny, he says, fundamentally considering, pain is a law of balance and education. Pain is a general order necessity as a development agent, a requirement for progress. So suffering, pain, challenge, trial are important, are actually necessary, and we should be grateful towards them instead of being frustrated, complaining, and trying to escape from the pain. But of course, many people don't know that, right? But because we know, we need to help those that don't know that yet. But we, by now, should be aware the importance of pain in our lives. We don't need to look for pain, right? We don't need to go and look for it because it will come for us. But we need to be able to deal with that well, with resignation, with calm, and doing our best. We also learned from Joanna de Angelis on plenitude about the pain and the suffering. In some cases, suffering in itself is still the best therapy for human progress. Is even considered a therapy as a medication for us. While suffering, men tend to reflect more and make fewer mistakes, which helps them to reestablish their emotional balance. When we are happy, usually we are celebrating, we are singing, we are jumping, we are just out, we are on the outside. But when we are suffering, we tend to be quieter, reflecting more, doing more our self-analysis and trying to learn from our mistakes. So that should be our attitude, not the one being frustrated and rebelling against the pain, but trying to understand why this happened to me. What is the lesson? How can I learn from it? So that is what the superior spirits are telling us, the importance of the suffering and how we can make the most of it. But then, so there is pain, there is suffering, but what actually would cause someone, most of the time, to go through and do the act of suicide? So there is this question, what would be the main cause of suicide? Of course, it's not only one, but there is one that could be, it is considered as the main one. An important cause, without any doubt, is depression. The person feels depressed, isolates himself, herself, and this isolation feeds the depressive process even more. They distance themselves from closest friends and family, loses interest in work, leisure time, and any other daily activity. So we can't generalize and say if someone is depressed, they're going to kill themselves. No, but it's a cause that can lead to depression depending on the situation and if it's not treated. So there is something for us to pay attention on the signs, something for us to pay attention in people around us in terms of prevention. We'll talk a little bit more about this. With depression, there are many different levels. So we can't just generalize depression, that's it. But we're gonna try to separate situational depression from the clinical depression. There is a distinction between the two. Situational depression happens with someone is sad for a specific reason. For example, a loss of a loved one. If someone's father, mother, sister, brother, son, daughter pass away, of course they will be sad. And can be a sadness that gets to a depressive state. But this sadness will be temporary and will pass. So that's the situational depression. Could be a loss of work, financial issues, relationship issues, could be many things. So the characteristic of this depression is temporary and that will pass. The other one, it's more serious, is more severe, which is the clinical depression, which is a deep alteration in behavior. It usually needs a psychologist, a psychiatrist, a professional help, and sometimes needs medication. So there is this differentiation between the two. And some of the symptoms, of course we're not going to talk about all of them, it would be another huge lecture just about that. A very important one is the loss of interest in the things they like. If someone likes playing soccer, for example, and then stop, doesn't want to go anymore. Someone likes to play music, or like exercise, and just stop doing things they like in life. So that's one of the signs, right? Low self-esteem is a very important one too, when people start not looking after themselves anymore. Feeling of emptiness, fatigue, is always tired, goes to work, is really tired, doesn't want to do anything else. Variations on sleep or eating. Some people will have, if they are depressed, they will sleep a lot, and some others will not sleep at all. With eating is the same. Some people will eat a lot, some people will not eat. Of course, these are just some of the symptoms, but if we notice someone around us and they have some of the symptoms, definitely we need to help. We need to try to do some prevention on it. So, but we'll get to prevention a little bit later. Another important part of the suicide are the consequences of it. We know the law of cause and effect. Everything we do will have a result, will have a consequence. And sometimes we don't think about the consequence for those left behind, for those that are here when someone else went to the spiritual plane, for example, through suicide. So for family and friends, it's really hard as well. Of course, the sadness will come, sometimes the feeling of guilty as well. We can see, even sometimes on the news, some parents saying, I feel that I should have done more, how come I didn't see the signs? And that brings lots of suffering for people around, whoever did the suicides. And again, that statistic, at least 20 people are affected. It's not only the family, could be friends as well. So these consequences are for those that are around. But of course, and by the way, even in New Zealand, and I'm not sure about other places, there is specific support for those left behind, which I thought was really incredible for New Zealand to have so much support in mental health. So if someone lost someone else by suicide, they can call the place. There are lots of resources available here as well to help, because the mental health professional, they know they will need the help. But what are the consequences then for the spirit, for the person that did that? And again, we're going to check Spirit's book. Question 957. What are, in general, the effects of suicides on the state of the spirit by whom it has been committed? And then the answer from the spirits. The consequences of suicides vary in different cases, because the penalties it entails are always proportional to the circumstances which, in each case, have led to its commission. So the important message of it is that varies. We can't really say if someone commits suicide, that is exactly what's going to happen with the spirit. We don't know. We can't generalize. It's really case by case. So spirits are really wise to tell us that will depend on the circumstances, will depend on many things. But there is one common consequence that we're going to read now. The one punishment, which we can replace by the word consequence, because we don't believe in punish as such, which no one can escape who have committed suicide, is disappointment. The rest of the punishment depends on circumstances. So why disappointment? If someone was feeling so much pain, so much suffering, and the reason why usually people do that is to escape the pain, when they realize, well, I'm still here, I didn't die, we can't kill ourselves, so of course there will be disappointment there, because the pain is still there, because life goes on. So regardless of their circumstances, regardless of the spirit, will be disappointment when they find out that the escape, the avoidance of the pain didn't work. And the other consequence for the spirit can come a little bit later as well. So the type of death many times will be registered in the perispirit, and in the next reincarnation, the spirit may carry the impressions of the traumas with them. such as disease. So again, we can't generalize, but many times a suicide can bring a disease in the next reincarnation, a deformation, or some other effects, because will be registered in our perispirit. Other thing important about suicide is what we call indirect, not we, but spiritism in general, indirect suicide. So we know of the suicide that someone just finished their life, but if we do excesses with food, drink, drugs, or any kind of excess, will be damaging our body, will be damaging our perispirit. And I think most of us know Nosso Lar, our home, from André Luiz Chico Xavier. And here, in this passage, one of the doctors is telling André about his indirect suicide. André, your entire gastric system was destroyed as a direct result of your excess in foods and alcoholic beverages, which you thought would be completely harmless. Your essential energies were endeavored by syphilis. As you can see, the diagnosis of suicide is incontestable, and André was really surprised by it. We can't be surprised by it because we're learning now. So now we know, right? Now we know, and we need to be responsible and preserve this beautiful gift that we all have, our body, and look after it. And just try to have a balanced life and look after ourselves. So now we just had like a general idea about how and why suicide works. But now we're going to go to the most important part, which is prevention. How can we contribute to prevention of this mistake? And the best prevention is always follow Jesus' teaching, especially love your neighbor as yourself. If we are always thinking and cultivating this idea of loving the others and ourselves, doing charity, will be contributing somehow, like in the little story, the simple gesture, to someone not doing that. The gratitude for this gift that we call life, not only our life, but everybody's life. Really value other people's life and pay attention on them. And then, of course, charity, kindness, patience, forgiveness, all the virtues to be cultivating, and we already know that, right? But in specific, for specific picking up from people the signs of depression or someone that might be at risk of suicide, we need to look around. We need to be aware of people, not only our family or friends. If we participate in a group where maybe we play sport or we play some music and someone is not coming, someone used to be there every week, but now they're not coming. Why are they not coming? We can call them. We can ask, are you okay? Do you need anything? Do you need any help? Sometimes we are too busy with our own lives. Everybody's busy. But we can always select our time and really pay attention. And if we notice that someone is not doing well, it's our duty to go and help them. And when we help, we need to really listen, which is really hard, right? We listen to somebody and a text message, oh, hold on, let me just check. It's really hard to be present and listen and take the time to be with someone and really offer the help. So when we offer the help, we have to take the phone away and be there for as long as people need. And it can be really hard because it's uncomfortable for us sometimes to see someone crying, to see someone saying sad stories about themselves. But it's worth trying to help. And will be times that the situation is more critical, or if we feel that we are in our limits, if we feel that we can't help further. Thankfully, in New Zealand, there are lots of support service. At least if we are aware of the support service, we can help that person to get to the service. all these numbers there, we have need to talk. People can even send a text message, and someone that's a professional in the mental health will call and will help. We also have Samaritans of Aotearoa, New Zealand, Lifeline, and there are many others. All the services are 24/7, and anyone can call. If the person that needs help is not in the condition to call, we can call and explain the situation. This person is crying, really needs help. What do I do? Where should I refer? Where should I take the person? So we can help facilitate. Because could be that sometimes it's too hard for us to help and we don't have the proper training. But thankfully, there are those places. We don't need to memorize any numbers, but if you just Google suicide help, crisis team help, all the numbers will show there. But it's important that sometimes we go with the person or we make sure that the person gets to the help. In Brazil, we have Centro de Valorização da Vida, CVV. It's actually a very famous place where people can call 24/7. People that work there are volunteers, but they receive training for it. And they also help by talking or referring. So there is help available. But I think it's not really well known. Many people don't even know about the existence of it. But if we know, we need to refer. And in New Zealand also, there is a free training online for suicide prevention. They do training in person as well. The online one lasts about 2.5 hours, and I did that one actually, and was really good. Really good information, really interesting, and it's for free. So if anybody is interested, it's on the website. Life Keepers, that's the organization that does that, and give you some more information about how to handle. But again, they say, if you don't feel comfortable with the situation, you need to go to a professional. We need to take the person because we don't have the proper training. But this gives a good idea about suicide prevention. It's really well done. What about our own prevention? Do we need to prevent? We may think that we don't, but we all need. Because we said already, and Spiritism tell us, we are in this planet of trial and expiation. We don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. And sometimes the suffering is really big. Sometimes we have difficulties in handling the suffering. We could get depressed. We don't know. And how can we prevent our own suicide thoughts or tendencies to depression? So one way of doing it is try to always do our self-analysis, as St. Augustine told us. Analyze our behavior at night. He says that, well, one way of doing that is at night before we go to sleep. We can analyze our behavior and check if we not sometimes isolate ourselves from others, if we stop doing things that we like, or any of these signs. And if we note something, sometimes we need to ask for help. We need to pray. We need to do something to not get to a harder situation. But also on Gospel According to Spiritism, there is a really good advice. On number 14. The calm and resignation which can be absorbed according to the manner in which terrestrial life is viewed, together with confidence in the future. Give the spirit a serenity which is the best prevention measure against madness and suicide. So the key words there are really serenity, which is so hard to achieve, isn't it? But we can cultivate a little bit every single day. Calm and resignation. When we have resignation, we understand that the problems, the challenges, the difficulties are good for us. We should be grateful for them. And then we are not going to get desperate. We are not going to think it's too much suffering, it's too much pain. We are not going to be avoiding the pain. And so we talked a lot about different things, but just as a summary for us, We decided to bring this topic because suicide is preventable in most cases, and we should be contributing to this prevention. Always remember to not judge people that might be having suicide thoughts or even depression, and always having love, respect, and trying to help them. The main reason we learned is the pain, the suffering that we have in this life. But we also know that the pain is important, and the pain is for us a tool, a pedagogical tool for us to evolve. One of the main causes is depression, so we need to pay attention in the signs in ourselves and in people around us, and help if needed. Consequences, there are consequences for the family, for friends, and of course for the person that did. It's important to remember that whoever did suicide will have a new opportunity. It's not all lost. So we'll have difficulties, but we'll overcome, because we always have a second chance. We need to be careful with the indirect suicides, the excesses that can harm our bodies, food, alcohol, and everything that we mentioned before. And in general, in summary, suicide prevention is about love, kindness, charity towards others and ourselves as well, because we need to also look after ourselves. And the support service that we mentioned, sometimes we need to help to facilitate people to get to those support services. So a special thanks to André Trigueiro. We still have 6 of these books to donate. So if anybody is interested, it's a really good reading, and we have at the back there. Just talk with Lucas and he'll be able to give you one. And thank you, André Trigueiro. It's a really well done work. And I found this phrase from Chico Xavier, which I thought is very appropriate for this moment. And he says, by the difficulties that we already overcame, we can be certain that no suffering lasts forever. We all overcame lots of the difficulties, right? And none of them last forever. They always pass. So our very wise Chico Xavier always brings like beautiful lessons. So this was what we prepared for tonight. But we would like to play a song that is actually based on the book as well, by Carlinhos Conceição, and we have the lyrics in Portuguese and in English as well. So I'm just gonna put this song here, and hopefully we can all follow.
Check o cabo.
It's too far?
The image for
Oh, yeah.
Hold on, let me...
De exceção, certamente encarnar tem lugar e razão. O acaso é zero acrescentado a essa equação. O acaso é zero acrescentado a essa equação. Nesse corpo onde você está, você não imagina trabalhando. Os rascunhos e mapas, a preparação. E arrogantemente você diz, não acredito não. E arrogantemente a gente diz, não acredito não. Ninguém foge da responsabilidade ante a ilusão que andou submetendo na verdade próprio coração, concebemos na ilusão da morte, tenebroso e capital castigo, que aí matamos, nos suicidamos, meu Deus, que perigo! Viver é a melhor opção, somos todos aprendizes, não se turbe o vosso coração, amigo, tenha fé. Questão de dimensão. encarnado neste corpo onde você está. Você não imagina o trabalhando, os rascunhos e mapas, a preparação. E arrogantemente você diz, não acredito não. E arrogantemente a gente diz, não acredito não. Concebemos a ilusão da morte, tenebroso e capital castigo. E aí matamos, nos suicidamos. Meu Deus, que perigo! Viver é a melhor opção. Somos todos aprendizes, não se turbe o vosso coração. Amiga, tenha fé, não se entregue não. Vida depois da vida, questão de dimensão. Viver é a melhor opção. E se algo na canção te toca, cante comigo esse refrão. Sei que sou imortal, não vou pagar pra ver o preço desse engano, pois morrendo irei viver. Sei que sou imortal, não vou pagar pra ver o preço desse engano, pois morrendo irei viver.
So we're just gonna open this space for comments or questions. If anybody has anything. Yes.
Yeah, I watched the other day a documentary of this guy that he's one in I don't know how many millions that tried suicide and it didn't happen. So now he is a lecturer, he gives lectures to everyone and talks about suicide. And he said exactly what you showed us before. People that commit suicide, they are trying to go away of the pain. They don't want to kill themselves. They want to kill that pain because they don't know how to get over it. And when they are doing it, when they are committing the act, they regret. But in many times, it's too late. So he said that when he jumped from a bridge, that a lot of people commit suicide in that point. I don't remember what country. But he said when he was there and he has just done it, he tried to grab to something, but he was already falling down. And he was saved and he went to hospital, and so he survived that. And so now he tried to help other people, because that's what it is, the thing. When they regret, they can't come back. And once you've done it, you actually success with your unfortunate act, there's no coming back, not at least to solve what you have already done. And another thing that I think we as a parent, especially here in New Zealand, we have a big a big role in our kids' lives, because depression in youth is a big thing. And kids normally don't want to tell the parents because they're going to be told off, or, you know, and many times the parents don't realize the kids are getting into a severe depression. And I heard about this father that, again, he goes and talks about suicide in youth, and he said that he was talking to his son, and the son came to talk to dad about someone from the school that were having suicidal thoughts. So the father said, "Oh, just get away from this child and he has mental problems, and he needs to go into hospital. And the friend that was having suicidal thoughts was actually him.
Yeah.
And when he went to talk to the parents thereof, listen and giving the right instructions. As a natural thing, we want to keep our kids away from these people, or they might need help. But we have to be very careful, because he left a letter saying, that kid was me. And imagine the father reading it, and how horrible and painful was for him that he could listen and pay attention to the signs. And unfortunately, with COVID, you ended up hearing more and more stories about suicidal. So everybody, that's why one of the main reasons we have to be very kind and remember ourselves of being kind all the time, because everybody's going through some kind of battle, and you don't know if you're going to be someone like the story to be there to help and prevent a suicidal, or if you're going to be that person that will actually do something to the outcome, because you could be both ways, the one that helps and the one that doesn't help.
No, definitely something that in the society, not even in spiritism, is not talked about, because it's uncomfortable. We prefer to just avoid the topic, but became more and more important for us to be aware of it and to study, to learn. And of course, if we try to do our best as human beings, then we'll be naturally contributing to the prevention. But really good examples, Marcel. Thank you.
Like you said, our society has some issues to sort it out, and this is a great way, so thank you for bringing that up to us, a way to deal with suicide. But as you said, the society recently approved or voted yes to euthanasia. And I would like to know, what is your thoughts about the euthanasia? Is it considered or not a suicide, or in which situation we are found on that?
You mean euthanasia and suicides?
Yeah.
If so, as we saw on the spiritism, it's really case by case, just depends. But if the person has the intention to finish their life, then it's suicide, regardless how sick they are. So by logic, by the definition of because what's suicide is finishing your life. And if they finish their life because the pain is too great, the suffering is too great, it is a suicide. But of course the circumstances will be considered, as we saw there. So we can't really tell exactly what's going to happen with this spirit that makes the decision. But of course euthanasia can be done by the doctor or the family, and then it will be another situation. Because it's always the intention, we know that God, and we know how the laws work, is the intention of the person doing the act or doing the behavior. And if the intention was, okay, I want to finish because it's too much, unfortunately it is, but maybe it's going to be seen in a different light because of the circumstances, or then there is the marriage, there are many other factors that we have no way of knowing. But again, no judgment. We can't judge people by doing that, because it's a mistake, and we make other mistakes, right? All the time, actually.
Thank you.
Cool. All right. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Alcione. That was very nice and hopefully very helpful to all of us. So we're going to say goodbye to our friends. I think we won't do the vibration together, but we'll say goodbye to our friends at home. Thank you very much for being with us. And we'll be again next week with Lucas and his lecture.